Good afternoon, or oh, no, it's still morning. Why am I pushing afternoon? Good morning. I am Dr. Tori J. Evans Barton. I'm the founder and CEO of the Fatherless Generation Foundation. I am a trauma informed healing coach and reunification expert. And I am coming on this morning because I've always wanted to do this segment, and I'm just being pushed more and more by my business coaches to do more lives. And I'm coming on this morning as I promised you that I would about an hour or so ago. Got delayed in a conversation, so I pushed it back about a half an hour. But I'm jumping on here because there's a lot of things that are happening that I think we need to address. And yesterday, watching the video of Zach Stacy abuse his girlfriend in front of the child deserves a conversation. It deserves a conversation that I've been thinking about having for a while. Actually, had it stashed in my StreamYard. And as soon as I hit the button and then read what the topic that I had already had up there, it was like, oh, this has already been sitting. Talking about the rage and the anger that exists within fatherless sons and fatherless boys. So let's go into this. Let's get into this. I'm not gonna be on here long. This is very early in my day, so I want to jump on here. I've got a couple other lives that I'm going to do throughout the day, but I want to talk about the fact that children who grow up in fatherless homes have a journey to deal with as it is. Right? Hold on, I want to push something over. And what we witness is when you're growing up fatherless, especially boys, you're going to have a way of resenting paternal figures. You're going to start resenting the paternal figures in your life due to perceived abandonment and perceived rejection. And those feelings begin to fuel a lack of trust, as I talked about in my introduction. It's a lack of trust. And it starts to result or cause a heightened sense of anger. And this becomes a true behavioral disorder. Now, let's get into this whole concept. Like, I know we know boys have anger, right? And I've said things like angry boys turn into raging men, angry girls turn into raging women. But I did post the videos on our social media page on Facebook. I posted it giving the warning that it was violent, giving the warning that it was violent because it's intense to watch him brutalize this young lady. And I only posted 2 videos. There's actually 3 out there. Watching him brutalize this young woman in front of the child. And then in one of the videos, as he walks out the door, he tells the child he loves them. Now, let me be clear. I don't help men who are abusive. And those people who think that I do, you're fooled, because there is a crazy man right now who we discovered that he was abusive, and he has done everything in his power to try to discredit, slander, harass, and everything else that goes along with what he can do to me. And I have now created a situation that he will not be able to run from. I don't play with bullies very well in the sand. Okay. And so once I discovered through a series of processes and trying to work with him for what, 2 or 3 years or so, and really I was ignoring what my gauge and my radar was saying. Even when he would cuss, okay, he would cuss me out, y'all. And he would say things to me and he'd call back and say, well, I'm really sorry. It was just my emotions. And I would take him back into the program like an abused woman and allow him to come back. And I would even say things to my husband at the time and say, hey, sir, I think this dude is abusive. Like, this is weird. And we just kept our eye on him, right? We kept our eye and had questions. But I need you to know that these boys, Zach Stacy is a fatherless son. And when you feel like you've been abandoned by your father, whether you have or you perceive that you have, and you're living with your mother and there's no man in your life to love you and to give you that affirmation and that discipline, let me tell you, boys grow up from a place of battle, and they're battling this undiagnosed thing of concealed anger. Can we have a conversation about concealed anger? Now, did it seem like Zach Stacy had concealed anger? No, because it seemed like it was very over the top and obvious to us. But how about we would have never known any of this if it hadn't been for the videos. Now, I got questions as to why she has cameras up in the house in the first place. Sometimes people need evidence because you guys don't believe it based on who people are. And so it seems like to me she had to get the evidence. But I want you to realize that this anger is not your normal anger. I get now why the Bible says be angry, but sin not. This is a whole nother level. And watching this gentleman, and we could say, oh, he's an NFL player. People cover things up. And you could even say, well, Dr. Tori, how do you know he's fatherless? I'm glad you asked. Because when I see things like this, and I see moments like this, and for those of you who did not see the videos, I'm going to warn you even now, you can look at the post below this one. I think it's 2 below this one. And there the videos are. And you'll see it as a big capital letters, warning, violent content. When I see moments like this, I go straight to Google. Wikipedia typically tells you a person's early, career, early childhood, things of that nature. There was nothing in the space of his early childhood and his family life. Nothing. Well, that was a red flag for me. So then I Googled Zach Stacy's parents. Only his mother's name showed up. Ding, 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 ding. Maybe his father was around, but he wasn't around enough for him to acknowledge him. He wasn't around enough for people to know who he is. And people only know that his mother exists, right? This situation of concealed anger is plaguing fatherless sons at alarming rates. This goes into why they're 14 times the average, of having issues, of even rapists, domestic violence. Why are they so angry? And who are they necessarily angry with? We can actually come up with some conclusions by saying they could be angry with their father and for him abandoning them. That's part of the equation, very much so. But I'm going to give you something else to work with today. Many fatherless sons are not only angry with their fathers, and then that manifests in this concealed anger. See, I'm going to go back. You think your anger is concealed. You think no one can see it, but people see it in your eyes below the surface. And it's not very deep. When you get agitated about something, it's not just frustration people see. They see the rage in your eyes. It says the eyes are the gateway to the soul. Anger, concealed anger, is embedded in your soul. And you think, you're like, okay, well, I can hide this from people. All the right people know that you're angry. I'm gonna even pull up this because I'm gonna keep talking about Zach Stacy because you guys, that was intense to watch. It was a hard thing to even, like, where's his mother? What is his family saying? Someone was hiding him out. Someone was thinking that hiding him out. And this girl is trying to find him to get him arrested, right? I'm going to read this to you because I wanted to pull it up. Wow. How does concealed anger, what does it look like? There's even a checklist online. If you have, if you have any national fault, it is hiding our own anger from ourselves. Good morning. How are you? Yes, Darren, it was brutal to watch. Concealed anger, let me say it this way and define it this way as well as I'm reading this. It is something that you think you're concealing from other people, but you're also concealing, from yourself. Oh, well, thank you, Jonathan. He said you're looking pretty damn good this morning. Well, thank you, Jonathan. You like my new hairdo. I haven't been on much because I don't do Healing Tuesdays right now. I'm trying to prep it and transform it. He likes my new hair. I appreciate that. I don't feel my best, but I appreciate that. Here's a checklist for hidden or concealed anger. Do you have procrastination in the completion of imposed tasks? Perpetual or habitual lateness? Ooh, I gotta admit that. Let me see. a liking for sadistic and ironic humor, sarcasm, cynicism, um, or flippancy in conversation, over politeness, constant cheerfulness, attitude or grin and bear it personality, frequent signs, smiling while hurting and feeling angry, frightening dreams, over controlled, monotone speaking voice. Y'all know that. You're masking so much. You're masking so much. Excessive irritability. Yeah. Getting drowsy at inappropriate times. This isn't interesting because I'm like, I think that's a lot of us. But it might be a lot of us because we have concealed anger. Some of us are passive aggressive in that way. I put on my page recently how I was called passive aggressive. Now, I have anger. There's no question about it. I'm a person, I'm a human being, but I'm not passive aggressive. I'm going to tell you how I feel. I'm going to tell you what I'm feeling and thinking in the midst of it all going down. Now, if I'm not speaking it directly to you and I'm filtering it through somebody else, that's because I believe that that person has an authority to speak it to you and I don't. That part. And so when we're looking at hidden anger is also manifested in domestic violence and in abuse, right? But people don't see it that way. And people will simply say, oh, he's just always angry. He's always been an angry child. And I never thought he would, well, he must have gotten that from his father. Have you guys ever, and I'm going to jump back to where I was going. I know we think he's mad at himself or his mother. I'm sorry. Blah, 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 blah. I know we think he's mad at his father for abandoning him, right? But have we ever considered that he might be mad at his mother for his father not being present? And so when he gets angry or he's triggered, he takes it out on the woman in his life because he actually can't take it out on the person that he's really angry with. You can't go around beating your mother like that. No, some people have tried, especially in their teenage years, and they learn that that's not a good idea. But have you as single moms ever considered that your boys are angry? And that anger is not just towards their fathers, but it's also towards you because the father isn't present and because of how you're raising them. Rage becomes the fatherless son's number one emotion. I know we're like, oh, boys don't feel. Yes, they do. They feel anger. They feel rage. Men don't share their feelings. Why? Because all they have is anger and rage. And if they share that, then what? And then you tell them they're angry. And that's how you going to tell them they're angry? I'm not angry. It's concealed, my son. It's concealed, my love. It's concealed because it's the only emotion that you feel. Because all the other emotions have been buried beneath it because you weren't allowed to feel anything else. Emotions cause us to take action, right? And if all I feel is rage or anger, because anger turns into rage, which we watched yesterday, then it caused me to feel like I'm in a constant battle. I'm in a constant fight. Why do you think boys join gangs? Girls do too. I say it, boys and girls. Angry boys and girls turn into raging men and women. Join gangs to feel accepted. Take drugs to try to get some relief from that anger because you feel it boiling up. I remember when we were doing the conversation on living with a mama's boy, raising a mama's boy, and then living with a mama's boy, we talked about the ticking time bomb. The dude who's the ticking time bomb is the one with the concealed rage. There's poor grades, dropping out of school. These are just symptoms. And way too often, we only deal with the symptoms of an angry little boy, and we don't go to the root of what his issue really is. And the root of his issue is his father is not present, and he's being raised in a home by a mother who doesn't even understand what a man looks like and doesn't even understand how to raise me to be a man, but she thinks she does because she's saying she's my mother and my father. But then I'm actually being raised as a man, but modeled after a woman. And so I have manly attributes, but I have the emotions of a woman. I have masculine everything else, but how I process like a woman. How crazy is that? So when you ladies say that you can raise a boy to be a man, but there's no men in your village, you are lying to yourself and you are doing injustice and harm to your sons. The impact of fatherlessness that is having on our society is individuals like Jack Stacy. And I'm glad that I can come on here and use a current moment. And I'm going to just start doing this more and more, where I just jump on for a few minutes and have a quick conversation with you about these, because that's what's happening. Hi, Barry. How are you? That's what's happening. And yes, Darren, that is transference. It is happening constantly over and over again. Zach Stacy didn't just wake up one morning and decide to beat this girl. Zach Stacy has been dealing with these emotions of anger his entire journey. And with no father present, they've just been able to just bubble up, bubble up. And I wonder if there was ever any accountability in his life. I wonder if there was anyone giving him direction, giving him guidance, giving him discipline. Because unfortunately, single mamas, you guys don't do very well in the discipline department. What you tend to do is you tend to think that you have to be like a man. And then what you perceive as being like a man and disciplining a child is beating a boy in his chest and getting up in his face. And guess what that does? That incites his anger even more so. And then it shows him in some instances that he's supposed to take toxicity and violence and abuse from a woman. Because we've got to be honest that domestic violence goes both ways. And so then when you show that to him, and then you're showing the girls in your home how you tame a man is get in his face, punch him in his chest, then guess what she grows up to do? She does the same thing. And then she might get the brakes beat off of her, depending on the dude that she's dealing with. We have to deal with the root and stop saying, oh, well, he's got ADHD. Yeah, that's a thing. He's got ADD. Yes, that's a thing. And that's part of the behavioral disorders. That's the manifestation. That's the leaf. But what is the root? The root is the anger that is being driven by the lack of a father. It's being driven by the perceived abandonment that his father has not been there. His father isn't there. And his mother is raising him in a home where he's supposed to be a man and he sees what manhood's supposed to be like, but he's being raised, and I'm going to keep saying it, he is raised as a man modeled as a woman. He has to glean manhood from TV and from the streets. And guess what that then creates? Whether you guys like the terminology or not, it's a terminology and I'm going to use it. It creates toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity tends to be devoid of manhood, true manhood. But you guys don't get that. Oh, we don't use that language, and that's the language of the misogynistic, blah, blah, blah. Get out of here with all these foolish terms. Own your stuff. Stop throwing it off on somebody else. Own it. The root of the problem overall is just poor parenting. Ladies, you're the best mother you can possibly be, but it's still poor parenting because you need two parents to develop a child. I heard a woman say recently, you're not raising a child, you're maintaining one. Because you say things like, I give them food, I give them shelter, I do these things. That's maintenance. That's not raising. I was like, boom. Training a child, the scripture says, in the way that they should go so that when they grow old, they won't depart from it. How are you training your children? Because from what I can see outside the doors, you're training them to be angry and rageful. You're training the boys, especially, not to own accountability and own their truth. You're training them not to get discipline and understand discipline and be disobedient and rebellious. And even God himself recognizes the rebellion and the lawlessness. He speaks about it in his word that will come from this generation. And yet you guys keep saying that's not a thing. When there is no foundation and there's no truth that exists, you guys can just make it like, you can just make it up as you go, huh? And while we're watching your children run amok, and now we're watching not only your children run amok, now your sons who have grown up into adults, and your daughters who've grown up into adults, they're running amok and now raising children in the next generation in that same chaos, misery, dysfunction, and trauma that they were raised in. It's repeating the pattern. I love a phrase that I read. Women make good mothers, but poor fathers. Stop being mother and father. Get your children the help that they need. And even better, allow the father access to the children. Because without the father having the access, the saying goes, it takes a man to raise a man. And so without that access, you're going to continue to raise young men who you can sit and say, oh, he went to college and he has a great career and he has this and he has that and he has this. And all the things you're listing are outside of himself. It's all material. It's all performance based. What about his heart? How's his mind? Many of you single mothers aren't even checking in on that. And now the impact of fatherlessness, as we have individuals like Zach Stacy running around. And when it gets to that point, we're like, oh my God, how devastating. Oh my God, how could this happen? It happened on your watch. So I'm going to get off of here and I'm going to leave it at that. I'm Dr. Tori J. Evans Barton. And just always remember, raging or angry boys turn into raging men, and angry girls turn into raging women. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.